Drum Club. Hey everybody, welcome back to World Drum Club. I am Kalani, your host and teacher. And in this lesson, I'm going to be breaking down how I approach building a percussion ensemble or a drumming ensemble or a world drumming ensemble, whatever you want to call it. So this would really apply to you music teachers out there, music educators, percussionists, all of you that want to play in a percussion ensemble, or you want to use drumming to accompany singing or dancing, or you want to play in a band. All of these things we're going to be talking about will help you do that and do it as best you can. So let's get right to it. So this, first of all, is one example, and all the rhythms I'm using in this example are made up. They're not based on traditional rhythms. It does not have a name, all right? And I encourage you to compose your own rhythms. Now, so you can certainly base rhythms on other rhythms. Most rhythms are based on other rhythms, but don't be afraid to experiment, to come up with your own patterns, to combine patterns that you know. We're not locked into any culturally specific rhythms in this case. The purpose of this lesson is to give you some guidelines, some tips, some strategies, so you can compose and construct your own drumming ensemble. So let's start with the choice of instruments. In the example I'm playing for you all today, I'm using 6 different instruments: 2 bass drums, 1 hand drum, a conga drum, and 3 handheld percussion instruments: a clave block, a agogo bell, and kashishi. Now, I'm choosing these instruments because they fill in the sonic spectrum from low to high. So in this way, I'm choosing the instruments to represent the spectrum of pitch. So you can think about using more keys on the piano or using the full orchestra, as it were, from our basses or low brass instruments all the way up to piccolos and percussion. So I want to choose instruments, first of all, before I even get into writing any rhythms, I'm going to choose instruments that are going to be separate in their own sonic range and also in timbre. So the drums are all similar, different pitches, but similar sound. Timbre-wise, the agogo is a bell, is a double bell, so that's metal. The clave block is wood. And the kashishi is made of beans and coconut shells and other things, so it's got a real crunchy sound. Those are all very different, so they're going to be heard discreetly in our final mix, okay? So choose instruments that will be sonically varied and also that have different timbre. Timbre refers to tone color or the quality of the sound. It's the thing that lets us determine the difference between a flute and a violin and a cello when they're all playing the same pitch. The timbre, it's also the thing that allows you to tell your friend's voice as opposed to a stranger, or your parent's voice or your child's voice as opposed to somebody else. The timbre of their voice, the vocal, the quality of the sound. It's very important. All right, so now we've got our instruments. Let's look at what we're going to do rhythmically. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to assign one of these instruments to the steady beat, the pulse, the basic beat, the walking beat. In this case, I'm using the kashishi. So I recommend that you always have at least one instrument. It doesn't have to be the shaker. It could be the bell or the block, or in this case, the shaker sound. But always start off with one instrument playing the steady beat. So here's the kashishi playing the steady beat. Here's a short sample. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, next, we're going to add in our agogo bell. Our agogo bells are playing something similar to the kashishi. They're overlapping, but it's a little more interesting, right? A little more rhythmic variation. Still very simple, but I'm building these together. We're going to build it up, build it out from the beat. Here's the agogo. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, we're going to add a little more variation now with the clave block. In this case, I'm using a larger block on the bottom and the regular size clave on the top. What's important to note is I'm creating a little more variation, a little more rhythmic variety. We're going to tie it into the pulse, but this gives it a little more, funkiness, something a little more interesting for the ear to grab onto. So it's still a very short phrase though. It's only a 2-beat rhythm, so it's very short rhythm, very cyclical, all right? Nothing complex. So here's the clave rhythm.
1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4.
Okay, so let's listen to all of the percussion parts, the hand percussion parts, together. And I just want to point out that this is very simple. You want to make sure that your players are able to execute these rhythms. Don't give the percussion to the players with the weak rhythm. If the bell or the blocks or the shakers are not really steady, you're not going to have a foundation upon which to build. So make sure you give these to people who can execute the patterns. But I want to play you the percussion, and then we're going to build up the lower drums from there. So here's all the hand percussion.
1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4.
Okay, so that gives us a nice solid rhythmic bed to build upon. And we're not going to be building above the bed. In this case, we're building below the bed, but it still functions as our sort of rhythmic graph paper, if you will. We're going to start off now with our low bass drum, the dun-dun, one of the dun-duns. We've got two, a low and a high, or low and medium, two different sizes, two different pitches. When you start with the low drum, I recommend that you ground it into the primary beat, maybe starting on the first beat. And you could start on the higher drum. In this case, I'm starting with the lower drum. The important thing is to leave a little space in the rhythm for the other drum. So in this example, I'm playing a pattern, but I'm leaving some space, and then I'll fill in that space with something else. So here's the low drum pattern.
1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4.
Okay, so that's the low drum. Now we're going to add a slightly higher pitched bass drum, and this will give us a little variety, more of a question-answer kind of call and response relationship. And again, they can overlap just like the high percussion, but I want to separate them out a little bit just to give it some variety. So here's what's going to be happening in the higher bass drum part.
1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4.
Okay, we've got the two bass drum parts. Now, I'm going to fill in between the low drums and the hand percussion with a conga drum, a mid-pitched hand drum. And again, this is a super simple part, but it's there to kind of bridge the percussion, the hand percussion with the low drums, tie in the rhythm a little bit. But I want to point out that also it's just a very simple part. When you get 6 different things happening, like we do here, you want to keep them all pretty simple, right? And you also want to give your players something simple to do. So nobody has to do anything very fancy, but you'll see the final result in a minute when we play everything together. But here's the percussion, here's the conga drum part by itself.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Okay, so we're ready to hear the full ensemble. I want to thank you for making it this far in the lesson. I'm excited that you guys are here. Before we play the final ensemble, I want to thank you for being a supporter of World Drum Club. Make sure you like the lesson if you like it. Subscribe to the channel so you don't miss anything. And also patrons of the channel, you will be getting notation for this ensemble as well as an audio recording of the final groove. And I want to thank you all for being patrons. You can join and get more over at patreon.com/Kalani. World Drum Club is also on Facebook. Find us there. Drop us a line. Send us a note or a request. So happy you guys are here. Okay, so here's the full ensemble, and I'll check back with you guys in a minute. So enjoy listening to everything as it comes together.
1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4.
Okay, so just to recap, choose your instruments based on timbre and pitch variation. Make sure you've got things that are different from low to high. Second, when you go into the rhythmic arrangement, make sure you have at least one instrument that's playing the steady beat. Boom, 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 okay? Doesn't matter what instrument it is, probably one of the bells or the blocks, but in this case we use the shaker sound. Add in your other sounds, a little bit of variation, but keep it simple. Bass drums or low drums, you want to have sort of a conversation happening there. And then you can add in any other medium pitch drums in the middle, your bongos, congas, darbuka, djembe, you can add them in, but you don't want things to get too cluttered, so you can leave a lot of space in a rhythm. Just have one drum doing something very simple. And I think if you do that, if you follow this guide, you'll have results that you're really proud of. And I would love to know how that works for you. You can leave your comments and questions below. I'm Kalani. Thanks for supporting World Drum Club, and I'll see you all in a future lesson.